In your coffee?
Disgusting.
Hello!
Welcome to ScreenJunkies Universe.
We've just started rolling right through the intro at this point.
Happy Friday.
The lights are going out. The alarms are going off. Screw it.
Happy Friday. I'm Roth Cornet. That's Spencer Gilbert.
Hey.
Joe
Currently
Starr.
not on fire.
Do you want some water?
Dan
I'm good.
Murrell.
Hello.
We got a little distracted because I was telling Spencer about how I've been playing with sumac, not in my coffee, but in my food. Delicious spice.
Oh, in your
Very-
food?
Yeah, very lemony. I
Oh,
had
top
it on
five
my-
spice, easily.
Yeah, easily top
Okay,
five spice.
but then you always have weird tinctures that you're drinking.
I do. Well, in this tincture, I have turmeric and cinnamon and some ginger and coffee. Good morning. Now you know how we drink our coffee here at ScreenJunkies. And I also just want to quickly say, before we get into the news of the day, lots of things to talk about, including a squirrel and and fan questions. But we had a fire alarm yesterday. That's how our show ended, naturally. And
I mean, at this point, the number of things that could go wrong is dwindling rapidly.
Yeah.
naturally, that's how our show ended yesterday. And I will say that some people contacted me and said, you're a terrible influence for not immediately leaving. Fair enough. You guys should all immediately leave when there's a fire alarm. We've just had several that have amounted to nothing.
To be fair, those people don't work in this building where often it's just like, what?
Oh, this is the building who cried wolf.
It
for
really
sure.
is.
It is.
The time it's real, we're all gonna joke around, and that's when
We jump off the balconies.
Yeah. But fortunately, that's not what happened yesterday. It was once again completely fake, and we're alive. And with you today, let's talk about AMC is going to war with MoviePass. We've been talking a lot about MoviePass and their business model. Here they go. They're going to try and start squeezing the theaters for more money, and AMC is not having it. So basically, they have been shut out of 10 of the busiest AMC locations. AMC is not happy with them. Adam Aron said in an earnings call, AMC, quote, this is last year, AMC, quote, has absolutely no intention, I repeat, no intention of sharing any, and I repeat, any of our admissions revenue or our concessions revenue with MoviePass. But MoviePass wants it. They want $3 cut on AMC tickets and 20% of the concessions, and they have made similar deals with independent chains who don't have probably the ability the way AMC does to say no to this. Thoughts? Initial thoughts? We can get into more of the details, but just gut check.
From day one, we talked about this. Like, what is their business strategy? Like, how do they? Because this is an untenable thing. They released a product that was too good to be true, and we've been saying that. How are they ever going to make money off of this? And it turns out their strategy is release something that's too good to be true that drives people to movie theaters that movie theaters had no part in. Like these independent chains in AMC didn't ask for MoviePass to do this. MoviePass offered a deal that was too good to be true, and now they're walking in like Don Corleone going like, hey, it's some nice new business you got here. It'd be a shame if something happened to it, you know? I'm just saying.
At some point, I'll call upon you for a favor. It'll be 25% of your concessions.
I just want to get my beak wet. I want to get my beak wet. I just want to get my beak wet here.
Yeah, somebody's getting the horse head because AMC is saying, hell no.
They're going with the mafia tactic, which
AMC is
that's
about
a
to
tactic.
Get,
That's
AMC's going
business.
to get sunnied.
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Fredo? I mean, go out on the boat and be like, poor
that's
fucking
the one.
Fredo. Oh, I've seen The Godfather too many times. I've seen it a lot. I used to watch it all the time as a teenager. Anyway, which is normal, as most teen girls do. You know, the way MoviePass sees it is like, you have us to thank for a large portion of your revenue, and so why aren't we getting a little slice of that, and then everybody wins? And because everybody's losing at the current moment in terms of theater chains and their revenue. It's down. They're not making money. If they say no to this, what do you think is going to happen?
Because they go back to losing money.
Yeah.
They lose the bump that MoviePass gave them. It's like, I still cannot decide if they are the smartest company or the stupidest company in the world. I really cannot figure it out. But their entire strategy now is, we are going to drive people to the theaters. And I think the day that this happened, you and I talked about this. Like, in order for them to become, one of the things that they might be in the cards if this works is that they're going to go to the theater chains and strong arm them and say, like, you need us, and now we're going to pull our service from your theater unless you give us money. And that's exactly what they're doing. Like, I I don't know. I can't as a subscriber, as a MoviePass subscriber. If I'm totally honest, I don't know how I feel about this because I don't know if I agree with this business practice, particularly, and we mentioned it with the independent theater chains, who don't have that cushion that maybe AMC does, that need that extra business, and now for them to come in, like there's an independent chain here that doesn't sell for $17 a ticket, they sell for $9 a ticket, and now if MoviePass is coming to them and saying you don't get our service unless you give us $3 of that ticket, well, they're already probably losing $3 to the studio and 20% of concessions. Do you know how much of a movie theater's profit is from concessions? I mean,
a lot, most of it.
It is a predatory business practice at best, and I'm quite honestly not sure how I feel about it.
And you're a member, are we all non-members here?
Yeah.
I'm a non-member.
I'm a non-member
yes.
as well. I gotta say, anytime something just looks too good to be true, I think that's I grew up in New York, and my assumption is that a 3-card Monte is going to be a no-win situation for me. And I just didn't get it. And I think because I was like, I don't trust it. I'm going to wait and see what happens. And if they take your information and your social security card and your life, and no, they're just trying to screw movie theaters. And is this just like the final slow, painful nail in the coffin to the movie-going experience?
I mean, look, when I was in 5th grade, I myself bought upwards of 25 CDs for a penny each from Columbia House. And my parents who still live at that address are still suffering for it to this day. So that's sort of how MoviePass feels to me. Like, look at this deal! And I feel like the deal seemed good for theater chains at first because theater chains were like, well, we make all our money on concessions, so just get people in to buy the popcorn. And now Columbia House is like, well, if you want that sweet Google Dolls tape or that Dookie CD / popcorn money, we're going to need a little cut of that.
I think pretty soon movie tickets are just going to show up at your house, like now magazines that you don't even subscribe to start showing up at your house. Like I get Rolling Stone. I've never asked for Rolling Stone in my life.
That's a good that just seems lucky to me. Like people just send you Rolling Stone.
I don't know, man. Like Bob Dylan's on the cover. Oh, who's this?
Never give Spencer an anonymous magazine subscription.
You know what feels the most unfair to me is that like the $3 a ticket you can track. Like the theater can track what ticket sales are from MoviePass and what aren't because you have a card and they can tell like whatever, you can negotiate that. It's the concessions that get me because MoviePass knows what they're doing. They know where the theaters make their money, and there's no way of tracking who's buying concessions from a MoviePass movie and who's buying concessions that just walked up to the thing.
Unless they start making you use.
Unless they have to write down what movie are you here to see. So you're either asking for what I think is an unfair slice of movie theater's biggest moneymaker, which is concessions, in a completely, I think to them, unfair way of not even tracking who's buying what. Like is this a regular consumer? Is this a MoviePass user? The $3 a ticket, whatever. I can see, I get that. But concessions to me is just an extra turn of the screw from MoviePass saying, like, I don't care if it's your biggest moneymaker. We're strong-arming you. You're going to give us this. And I don't care. Again, this is a disincentive for me, again, as a MoviePass user, to use it at a place that's an independent theater chain. I'm not talking about an AMC or a Pacific Theaters. I mean, there are small chains where I know the owner because he's at the door tearing the tickets that I don't know if I would use MoviePass there because I don't want them to be subject to, as a consumer, what I believe to be a company that, through no fault of that theaters, because they didn't ask to be part of this, is now being strong-armed into giving over what I think is a big slice of their profit.
I mean, it's certainly going to not be good for small theaters, and AMC right now is in a negotiating position, but I don't know, it just feels to me like all of this is leading to a place that nobody wins.
I was just my mind was off somewhere else. I was thinking of what if they tracked your concession purchases by movie, and then I was thinking like what movie genre eats the most?
That's a really good question because there are movies that I am more likely to eat in than others.
Right?
Like I'm not likely to eat
fair,
in like dark, gritty, violent crime dramas.
And I was thinking it's probably like popcorn movies, right? But then I was thinking do prestige genre films sell the more prestige genre snacks?
No caps.
Like, do you sell more like hot dogs and nachos and it's like the fancier stuff? Yes, Roth.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah. Do you sell the lobster bisque and the fancy kettle corn and like dried persimmons and stuff? Yeah, and popcorn was wow.
Yeah, Florida Project was definitely a kettle corn movie and not a popcorn movie.
So there's a theater that's like one of the fancy like you can have wine there, blah 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 theaters on Sunset, which is exactly that. It's like the prestige films, and you go in and you get wine and fancy foods, and then you get at the popcorn theaters the nachos and whatever. So already this is an idea that I think people are playing with. Neither of which is working though. I feel like
these aren't restaurants.
These aren't restaurants. Everything's a restaurant in my mind. I don't know. I mean, I feel like with the popcorn films, those are the films that we're more likely to keep seeing in theaters anyway, because it's going to be the event films and less anything else. Like, I don't know if you saw Detroit in a theater. Yeah, I wasn't going to be eating during that experience. Yeah. However, during Jurassic World 2.
Oh yeah, shovel as much raw meat in my mouth as I possibly can. Like a dinosaur.
Man.
Yeah, I don't know. This just seems sleazy to me. Seems a little sleazy, if I'm being honest.
I agree with Dan. And the most surprising thing to me is that they're very just outwardly being sleazy.
It's business, and I get that business is sleazy, but that doesn't mean.
Well, when we talk net neutrality, Spencer made the amazing point that you're never going to see it in a bad way. It's going to be things are going to be presented to you as ultra diamond gamer packages, and I'm surprised we're seeing more like plain words here instead of MoviePass being like, we're not being greedy. We want to give you something premiumer. Like, If
MoviePass had gone to these theaters when they started, and they tried to do this and it didn't work, if MoviePass had gone to these theaters when they started and said, we're doing this new thing where for $9 a month people can go see however many movies they want, and do you want to be a part of this program or do you not want to be a part of this program? And if these theaters had opted in and said, yeah, our attendance is down, let's give it a shot, and then it worked, and MoviePass is now going back to them and said, like, okay, this is really working, so we need to renegotiate our terms. That's one thing. That's business. I get it. MoviePass set up a system wherein the theaters that the people are going to did not need to consent to people using this thing. It was a MasterCard. It's just like any other customer. The theaters didn't opt in. They can't opt. We talked about this AMC because it's a MasterCard. For them to opt out of it, they would have to stop taking a form of payment, which is a whole other system. So they basically forced a system upon movie theaters, whether they wanted it or not. And now that it's working for them because it's too good to be true, because it's an incredible deal, they're now going to these theaters and saying, like, well, guess what? We made a business move that you had no say in, and even though it's benefiting you, we need a deal, and it's on our terms, not yours.
Yeah,
and we have full authority to pull this service from you. And it just seems...
Are you going to discontinue your MoviePass?
It's given me second thoughts. Yeah. I'm being quite honest. At the very least, I'm going to be much more judicious about where I use it if this is the terms, because I don't agree with this. I really don't. And I think this is honestly a miscalculation on their part, and I think a lot of users like myself that there's going to be some that don't know about this, but I think there's going to be a lot of users that are saying, like, this seemed too good to be true, and now it is, and I'm going to have to reconcile where I want to use this and where I don't, because I don't know. This doesn't hit me right.
And you know who
as a customer?
JTE from the booth, if you want to do a lower third, are you going to keep using your MoviePass? And then Billy, you weigh in too.
I wasn't listening.
Okay, Billy wasn't listening.
Billy was producing.
The person I need to see speak up is Gerard Butler, because if this falls apart, I think Gerard Butler is the biggest loser, because MoviePass is why we're sort of in the middle of a Gerard Butler revival, because MoviePass is now the reason people will go see middle-of-the-road Gerard Butler films. And so if this doesn't...
He owes them big time.
Yeah. If this doesn't
anything,
move forward...
he should be giving them money, right?
Yeah, he should be giving MoviePass 25% of his popcorn.
Yeah.
I don't know. Storm should change its name to MoviePass.
I've been openly a big proponent of using MoviePass because it is a great deal, but
you didn't know the horse was
naive. Maybe I was naive to not think that something like this was coming, but I don't know. It hits me wrong. It strikes a real sour note with me.
Yeah. Well, lesson learned to all of us. Too good to be true means it's too good to be true.
Eventually.
Yeah, I'm still using it, says JTE and his strong ethical core. I think he speaks. Yeah.
I'm not saying if you keep using it. I'm not saying if you keep using it, you're unethical. These are these thoughts do not reflect the thoughts of ScreenJunkies, ScreenJunkies News.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Oh, hell yeah. Billy says yeah. All right, there we go.
Yeah, most people don't care. I don't know. It just strikes me as odd. It's I don't know. I don't like it. It's sleazy.
You know what I do like? Squirrels. Normally, except when they're violent. And we have talked a couple of times on the show. Why am I talking about squirrels right now? Because I can.
We can't stop her, literally.
You literally can't stop me from doing it. And I had talked about very early on in our show a squirrel attack in Prospect Park in New York. Guess what? There's another squirrel attack in New York, and we have footage. And my theory says this is the same damn squirrel. Let's take a look.
Radio. The squirrel turned it
Is
on.
it a cop's body cam?
Yes.
Hey, Officer Patchouli, the squirrel got me, hey!
No one can hear that. Oh my God. So this is Brock. Oh my God, JT. This is the Brockport Police Department.
This is really offensive, you guys. Blue Lives Matter, and you're promoting cop killers like that squirrel. He could have had the plague, and that would have taken
The
him off
squirrel
duty.
was resisting arrest after eating cookies in a New York home.
Yeah.
It looks suspicious.
Yes,
Breaking and
this
entering.
is a cop breaking and entering.
Resisting arrest.
Resisting arrest. This is a body cam from a police officer. And the squirrel was eventually captured and released without bail. So I don't know what that says about our judicial system, but I
say it's nuts.
I say this is the same damn squirrel that was in Prospect Park, or this is the beginning of the squirrel uprising.
I figure this is just what New Yorkers are like. It's just like even the animals. Fuck you! Hey, I'm squirreling here. Hey!
That's true.
Yeah. It's just
even the
complete
animals.
anarchy. It's like the Purge.
It's true. Like even the rats in the subway, they're so big and brazen and
Remember
bold.
Pizza Rat?
No.
Yeah.
A pizza rat. He was a legend. It was like a rat trying to eat an entire piece of pizza in New York.
We gotta
Is he
catch
like
you up.
massive?
Well, no, it's the pizza was bigger than him, which everyone was like, I really identify with Pizza Rat. I feel like you would have gotten that one.
Yeah, no, I should have, but you're kind of right. Like, New Yorkers are assholes and we don't care. And he was trying to do squirrel things and they interrupted him. It was rude, frankly, on the officer's part. Squirrel uprising?
Who directs this movie?
Sorry, I was over here thinking about MoviePass.
Who directs Squirrel Uprising? Because this has to inspire some kind of movie.
I hope so.
Yeah.
If
I
there's
did. There's
justice
the
in
Nut Job,
world.
right? The Nut Job 2.
Yeah, but this has to be a little
Nutty by
more like
nature.
hyper violent, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm thinking.
What's his name? Killing of a Sacred Deer guy. Yorgos.
Nice. Yes, I would watch that.
And all the squirrels talk in like weird staccato.
I think that I would like to go and get some nuts now.
Yes.
Would you like some nuts?
It's time for me to hibernate.
My vote
I'm
is.
going to rip off your face.
but I'll take cashews unless they're low salted. Then in which case I'll get peanuts. But if they're shelled peanuts, I'd like perhaps to get a.
See, I would watch that. That I would watch.
The
And then
squirreling of the
sudden-
sacred squirrel.
The squirreling of the sacred squirrel. Do it, do it, do it. There was no point to any of that, but it made me happy.
Send
I'm
her off your
going-
favorite squirrel news. She loves it.
Send me so much, or other weird animal news, or other
And-
just like weird human news.
Look forward to SquirrelJunkies news.
Yeah.
Which is the
Yeah.
spinoff of this channel
Yes.
launching.
But not Squirrel Girl, because that
Yeah.
appropriates squirrel culture. We want the real thing.
Exactly. No Squirrel Girl.
I'm so effing glad I brought this up today. Fan questions. Jonathan asks, what do you think of the photos of Mission Impossible Fallout? It says the
haven't seen it.
tile.
Title, I believe.
Title. Okay. I was like, the tile? Have they made a tile? That's weird.
Yeah,
Okay.
Like a nice
that's what it's
backsplash.
called.
The
with
title
tiger
and the
guys.
photos of Mission
I like
Impossible
it.
Fallout.
He's
Fallout.
probably going to fall out of something.
Looks like
Yeah.
the Simpsons logo. There we
there
go.
he is.
There's what he's falling out of.
Helicopter over an ocean.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tom Cruise and aircraft.
These are fun.
Yeah.
I like
Yeah.
these movies.
Yeah,
I
they're
like to
fun.
see what he's going to fall out of next.
Is that where he broke his ankle? Remember
JT
he
was
jumped and broke
asking
his
that,
ankle?
yeah.
I think that was maybe where he broke his ankle.
It's
It looks
possible.
impressive, but remember, all of these things
mean,
are
he's-
built as miniatures to accommodate for Tom Cruise's size. So it's really like a train set.
I mean, the physics of that picture, they're obviously not going to make it. If you look at that, like, they're-
Yeah.
that person is going to go into the side of that building.
Yes.
Nah, yeah, they're fun movies. I
That
like the Mission
person
Impossible.
is, but Tom Cruise isn't.
Well, I mean, unless there's angels in the outfield, something happening. He's going through that. Maybe he's going through that window.
Yeah,
I
he
don't
might
know.
be
Oh,
aiming
maybe
for the
that's all
window.
his time.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Every time there's
He's a maniac.
Every time there is new stuff for a new Mission Impossible movie, I always go, and then I go see that Mission Impossible movie, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, they're good. It's a good
I'm never
franchise.
excited for
I
them.
miss
and I always
Ving
enjoy
Rhames.
them. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a Ving Rhames hole in my heart, and
Oh right, Jeremy Renner.
yeah.
Well, this is like the reunion
Hey,
movie,
man.
I think.
I don't know.
Do what?
This is like the reunion movie, I think. Like they're bringing back all of the. I think they're like not a lot of the women that were in the. I think they're bringing back like Paula Patton, and I have to go back and look exactly who's coming back. But I think it's like it's a big team.
Will they bring back Limp Bizkit for the soundtrack?
Yes.
No.
I don't know. Maybe.
Mission Impossible Fallout.
Oh, Natalie wants to know. Oh, mother. What do you guys think of the plagiarism accusations made against The Shape of Water? Do you know about
I
this?
did not know
They were
this.
debunked.
Well,
There we go.
the family says different.
What family?
The family of the playwright.
The playwright. I
The-
thought you meant
I
the
don't know.
student film in the overseas
No,
that
no,
people
no.
said like, oh, it was a ripoff, and then they talked to Guillermo del Toro and they found out that there was no plagiarism whatsoever.
No, there's an American author and playwright named David Zindel, is the son of the Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright Paul Zindel.
Wow.
And there was a play that he wrote in 1969 called "Let Me Hear You Whisper" about a female janitor who falls in love with a captive water creature. In this case, a dolphin. Let's not go where I think we're going to go.
Because yeah, dolphins are mammals. So
And here are the
Not fish.
similarities. There are actually a number of similarities in the play. Not only that, it's that it's a female janitor and a water creature that's trapped. But she is not mute, but she mentions being mute in it. She's like, some people are mute and we don't kill them just because they can't speak. Speaking about the dolphin, she has a friend who is a female who helps her get the dolphin out of the facility. It's in a government facility, trapped. There are a number of things, and the studio has said, look, Guillermo didn't even see this play. He didn't know about it. These are just coincidental
I mean,
similarities.
yeah, if the Superwater ripped her off, then they ripped off Free Willy too, because that's something about a captive sea animal that escapes with the help of a friend. Like these are such broad. Like I hate this. Every time there's something big and popular, somebody comes from 30 years ago. It's like you ripped me off.
well, exactly, because I think you can find something very similar to everything that's ever been made.
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
so much has been made by now. So the ones that get popular, people are like, wait a second, that's just like this other thing.
I mean, it's like
which-
comedians being like, "You stole my airplane food joke," and it's like, dude, like lots of people have probably done little projects about having sex with a fish. It's just a universal like human theme, and just let it go. Look, he's wanted to do an Abe Sapien movie ever since he stopped doing Hellboy movies, and Shape of Water is a very artsy Abe Sapien romance movie. Which he obviously had to change.
I love
so
how
that
he,
Mike
though, is
Mignola
like,
wouldn't
no,
go
it's
after
not
him.
Abe Sapien.
It's so Abe Sapien, which is
It
fine.
is,
Which
that's
is
fine.
completely fine.
Look, if he trips at the Oscars and like the ticket stub for the play falls out of his coat pocket, oh no!
I mean,
Then that's a different story.
I agree with you guys in the sense that the studio is like, Guillermo del Toro has been making movies for like a couple decades now, and he's not needed to rip anybody off. So, unless he's doing an adaptation, that's not a ripoff. That's a different thing. So I think it's entirely possible that in the universal unconscious of monsters, people had similar ideas.
And
Well, sorry.
Oh, well, I was just in college, I did write a 10-minute play called Blade 2, and like I haven't
Yeah.
said a word against the dude,
Yeah.
so just let it go, man.
Yeah.
By the way,
Sorry,
this
Dan.
is my suggested reboot for Universal Monsters, is the universal unconscious of monsters. I don't know what
Very
it is.
different.
If you read the story about the student film in I forget which country, maybe the Netherlands, I'm not entirely sure, that there was this whole thing just like he ripped them off, and it was made like 3 or 4 years ago, and it did have a lot of parallels, like a lot of parallels, and they like Guillermo del Toro, they met with him, like he talked to them, he told them about the origins of the movie and where it came from in his mind, and they came out and said like we talked to him, we compared notes, he came up with this idea way before we did this movie. Like he, to our satisfaction, has we had a great talk about creativity and stuff. So it's like if Guillermo del Toro was able to talk to these people who had many more parallels than this and convince them of where this came from in his brain, and they were under no obligation to cover for the guy, then I think it's probably a pretty good. It's just it's
Yeah.
its
I mean,
creativity is like. it's the great ether, you know, and people pull from things, and sometimes there
They're
are
similar.
ripoffs, and sometimes they're, you know, it's not an Ice Ice Baby situation where it's like, no, I added a tss, so it's my thing.
It's not
Dun,
even
dun,
like
dun, dun, dun,
Armageddon and the superior movie Deep Impact, in that there were just two ideas that were percolating in the universe, and the gods gave them to a couple different filmmakers. Nobody can control that. You know what's cool is the universal unconscious. It really is. Like, if you think about the myths that were happening across cultures that were super similar, and they definitely couldn't talk, more than one person thought about fish sex. Steven says.
So you're doing it now, too.
I'm not doing it. You know I'm against it. It's
Well-
not about fish sex. It's Friday.
You just said it was.
It's Friday.
That's how it
Steven
happens.
wants to know. That's
This is how it
We just
happens.
commented on a video that's not out yet.
Oh,
Yep. Exactly.
Oh no, that happened on the show
yeah,
yesterday
that
too.
I feel like it happens a
right.
lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
I
been
actually
happening.
thought you were trolling
And then
us.
Dan pulled the fire alarm.
End the fish sex. Steven Spielberg is remaking West Side Story. Is this a good idea? Steven asks us this. Even if it's a passion project, why remake an almost perfect film?
That's a great question.
Great
I don't
question,
think you
Ed.
should. I love West Side Story. It doesn't need
too.
a remake.
I agree.
Gotta wonder if he's got some original take on it, but otherwise, yeah, just watch West Side Story.
It's also really weird to do a movie about that now. It just isn't like so like the Jets and the Sharks running around snapping and shit. Like, how does that
Well,
make
exactly.
sense?
Like, I don't know if he will change things like the choreography and the snapping.
I love the snapping.
Okay. Well,
I mean, that show is the choreography. Like Jerome Robbins, and like that is so tied into what that show is. It's that no-win thing. Like, who are you making this for? The
Himself.
people
Money.
that don't like West Side Story aren't going to go see it. And the people that do like it are just going to go and ask why you changed things. But then Beauty and the Beast made $1 billion
Yes.
globally, so I guess that's why.
I don't know.
It's
Yeah, if this
unnecessary.
is something that he's really passionate about, like, I'll take his word for it that he's got a good take on it.
Yeah.
But I don't personally see the need or have much
I
interest.
mean, we've
in it.
had like 4 different hairsprays in the past 10 years. There was the John Travolta one. There was the live one. We've had 2 different hairsprays in the past 10 years.
And the Broadway
there's,
show.
There's
And the
the
Broadway
Broadway
show,
show, but then there was also the hairspray with what's his name?
You know, that guy.
Oh, Zac Efron? That's the movie,
No, no,
right?
no, no, no. I'm talking about like the hairspray.
movie.
John Waters?
Yeah,
The
John
actual-
Waters.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
What do you guys
Isn't
think
that
about John
Shampoo?
Waters?
great.
No,
He's
Shampoo was with
It's Warren Beatty.
Warren
Excuse
Beatty
me.
and
Yes,
Carrie
that's
Fisher.
what I thought you were talking about.
I feel a
but-
little less weird about
He
remaking
offered to
musicals
take her
and stuff like
virginity.
that because that's a weird thing to just have
Wow,
in my ear.
He did.
It's like musicals to me and stage adaptations are a little bit like Shakespeare films to me, where it's like, why can't, I mean, if someone's already done West Side Story on Broadway, then does that mean a regional theater in like Alabama can't do West Side Story, like, and do their own take or twist on it? Like, let the guy remake his musical.
Yeah, but cinematically,
Yeah,
it's
but
like
it's different.
it's like why it's like Casablanca. Like you can remake Casablanca, and you probably get some really good actors to come in and redo it. But
don't.
why would you? And West Side Story, I think, is one of those movies that's like that's a great movie. It has
Yeah.
Oscar-winning, has a couple of Oscar-winning performances, and won Best Picture. Like what's the value in doing it other than
like
I want to
Sound of
do
Music.
my version? You
When
know.
they did that, it was just like, come on. Or Psycho.
Yeah.
Shot for
Psycho.
shot Psycho.
I mean,
How annoying was that?
like Brenna's Hamlet is great, and then the one that Ethan Hawke was in was weird and not very great. But I'm still fine if someone else goes, you know what I'm gonna do? A Hamlet, like whatever.
But they take wildly. They set it in different places. It's different eras. They use the like. I think those are interesting exercises in like how do you take text and like contextualize it differently. Like West Side Story is a musical. It's about very specific things, and there's a lot of iconography. There's not a lot of iconography associated with Hamlet, other than the skull thing, which even that's just kind of a
And the
caricature.
Blockbuster Video
Sure.
Store, if you've watched the Ethan Hawke one.
And yeah, but there's so much iconography associated with West Side Story.
Maybe
It's
he'll
where's
set
the
it.
win there.
He'll set it inside the Oasis, and the Jets will be like Xbox fans, and the Sharks will be PlayStation fans.
Well, there
Yeah.
you go. And Mark Rylance will play Officer Krupke. It'll be great.
It'll be perfect.
Officer Krumsky, when you're a jet for all time, from your first cigarette to your last time. Okay.
None of those
Bobby.
lyrics were correct.
No, they weren't. When you're a jet for all time, from your first cigarette to your last dying line.
No.
Check it. put
When
it on
you're a
Google.
jet, you're a jet all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day. Look it up. and it's Officer Krupke.
I love that West Side Story just got mansplained to
When
Roth.
you're a jet all the way from your first cigarette to your last dying day.
Who's right? It's probably them.
Oh, okay. I was taking it for granted. Like, oh, that must be like chorus 3 or something.
Yeah. I don't know. I really thought it was that, but you're probably right.
Maybe we're both right.
I don't remember at all.
I love West Side Story. I don't know if you can
I just wanted to argue about something.
Last dying day.
Last dying day.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You know what, Roth? I still think you have value.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So do I. She's got a lyric wrong, and not devaluing her as a person.
None of you think that. Bobby says, with the word of mouth success of The Greatest Showman and recent box office hits like La La Land and Into the Woods, our audience is back to clamoring for musicals like they were in the golden age of Hollywood.
Clearly. Because
Well, we
Steven
just did a lot of
Spielberg is
musical
remaking
talk.
West Side
Yeah,
Story.
exactly.
Yeah.
That ties into the previous question, which is
I still want to see. I want to see a big budget feature adaptation of Spider-Man Into the Dark. I'm fascinated by that weird, stupid musical, and I want someone to just throw a lot of money at like a 3D movie experience of it.
All right.
Like I don't actually want that, but like the me.
I want to see the musical about the shit show
The
that
making
it
of.
was to get that on Broadway. That's what I
Yes.
want to
Yeah.
see.
The
The people just falling off.
yeah the song the guy sings as the wall is rushing towards him because his harness broke. Yeah.
That's the musical I want to see.
I thought I wanted to see a musical of Les Miserables because I love Les Miserables. It's one of my favorite musicals, and Hugh Jackman was phenomenal in that movie. But there's a reality to musicals, particularly adapting ones, where you have to cast Hollywood. The Producers is one. Great Broadway show. Did a movie, had to cast Hollywood actors in it because it's a business, not as good.
Are you talking about the original movie?
No, the musical The Producers had a movie adaptation.
Yeah,
Where
the Mel
they,
Brooks.
yeah, like the musical with Matthew Broderick and Nathan Lane. There's a movie of that.
Well,
No,
wait,
I'm talking
there's
about the
a movie
original
that was in like
movie.
the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's the original
Right.
movie.
The
And then
original
there's a
movie in the
Broadway musical
70s.
of The Producers,
Yeah.
and then there was a movie
With Will
made
Ferrell.
of
Another
that
movie?
musical.
Are you talking about the
Yes,
Will-
with Uma Thurman and Will
but
Ferrell.
I didn't know
the,
they did that.
But the original movie is really great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that the musical movie of The Producers was not anywhere near as good. I'm saying like these are two great musicals that are great on the stage, but when you take them to movies, you have to cast Holly. You have to cast Russell Crowe as Javert. Ugh.
That was the worst.
That was not good. And then there's like even Will Ferrell in the musical was not nearly as good as the guy that did it on Broadway. It's an inferior product because so. I'm hesitant to say there's any Broadway musicals that I want to see because some of them don't translate well to film. I'd much rather see ones like La La Land that are kind of original and made for cinematic.
I can't listen to like apologists saying things like, "They sure sang their best for non-singers." Like if
It was intentional, Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
I would watch. There's some who can do both, who came from Broadway or have Broadway experience. Like I would love a Book of Mormon musical.
Oh my God,
with
yes.
Josh Gad, who was
Yes.
the one that made the role
He could do it.
famous.
Have you seen the Book of Mormon?
Yeah, it's incredible.
Oh
It's great.
God, it's so good. I would love to see that, and I also think that probably makes more sense for a movie-going audience today. Like doing a classic golden age of musicals musical now feels weird. You have to update a little bit.
Yeah. Well, and The Greatest Showman and La La Land are both musicals made for movies.
The screen.
The screen. They're not. Into the Woods was an adaptation, and I don't know what the box office was on it, but I don't remember it being hugely
I mean, Sondheim's weird.
successful.
Yeah.
It's super weird, and I mean, I think Meryl Streep got nominated for an Oscar because she was
She's
in it.
She's Meryl
Meryl
Streep.
But yeah, I saw it and I was like, this is weird.
She was like running around. I'm a witch.
Into the Woods.
Oscar.
Yeah, I don't know.
That is one of
Nailed
my
it.
favorite Sondheim songs. I'm a witch.
Oscar.
I would like to see more original movie musicals.
I'm just sitting here tramping down, singing inappropriate producers' lyrics. So you're welcome. Parker, this one's tough. Parker wants us to predict what the biggest flop of 2018 will be, which I think it's very, very hard to tell at this point. But I think Billy mentioned one that he thinks may be in danger of not doing as well as some people think it will, which is Ready Player One. I think it depends on how good it is. If it's great, I feel like that movie will kill.
Solo.
Solo.
Solo will not do what they want it to do.
I'm
Well, yeah, what's a flop for that movie, though?
worried.
Yeah.
They're coming. It's coming out in less than 4 months. There is no marketing. It's a troubled production, and I think that there is a certain part of the fan base that is very so on Star Wars
So
right
low.
now.
So low on.
And
Yep.
for me, I have very little interest, to be honest, in seeing Solo, because even Rogue One brought some dimension to the universe that I was curious about. And for Solo, to me, it's like, I don't care what Han Solo did when he was younger. I don't care how he got the Millennium Falcon.
Yes.
I don't care how he met Lando. I don't care how he met Chewie. I don't care what his real name is. I don't care about anything that movie could possibly tell me, because I've had my run with Han Solo. He had a great run. Not so great at the end. But before that, great run.
Stay away from bridges.
Very little. I don't care about anyone but Harrison Ford playing that part.
No.
I just don't care about really anything in that movie. And
Yeah.
I think that's gonna maybe it'll do $1 billion.
Wasn't the trailer supposed to come out this week?
We had rumors.
Super Bowl? Yeah,
Maybe
okay.
it's the Super Bowl, but I mean, even still, at this point, they're holding so much back on this, and maybe because it's Star Wars and they feel like they can. But I'm with you.
Yeah, who knows? But you're right. Han Solo's appeal as a character was that he seemed like a regular kind of guy that just walked into this situation. And I don't need to explain before we met him that he'd already been on these insane adventures.
Yeah, it's like the John McClane problem, where it's like, he was a dude that got thrown in that tower. I don't need to know about his background as a super cop.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, it's hard for me to take it as part of the universe, because it's like, I mean, even like, again, just going back to Rogue One, not that it was an amazing movie, although I liked it a lot, but it was able to weave in the people that we recognize. So like, oh, this is part of the continuity. There's Darth Vader. There's, sometimes it was good, sometimes it wasn't so good. But this is a totally different guy. And it's like, I know what Han Solo looks like when he was young. I've seen Star Wars. It's Harrison
Pretty young
Ford.
dude,
So
yeah.
now it's like, this is the first movie that's kind of
like
breaking
Rogue.
that canon of like, this is something completely different. This is not the same guy. It's not going to tie in some way where you can watch them all together. And it's just, I don't know, it seems weird and unnecessary to me.
Do you think all of the behind the scenes hullabaloo is also playing into the disinterest? Like the interest that I had in it was those directors and what they were going to do with it, Miller and Lloyd,
Yeah.
honestly. And then when I heard they had to, I feel bad for the guy, but they had to get him an acting coach. And it's like, yeah, because you're trying to capture Harrison Ford.
Yep.
No one can do that.
And it's not that he's a bad actor. He was great.
He's
in Hail
great,
Caesar.
yeah.
Like Alden Ehrenreich was like the funniest guy in Hail
He's
Caesar.
been given an impossible task.
Yeah, be Harrison Ford.
Be Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
Yeah. Be height of his powers.
Yeah.
Harrison. Yeah. That's,
Yeah.
And on that note, we will leave you with this going into your work weekend. I hope you're not working this weekend.
Yeah.
If you are, I hope you have fun at work this weekend. But if you're not, and even if you are, be you. There's nobody else you can be.
Especially
Okay.
not Harrison Ford.
Wise words.
But
yes.
it's like, especially, like, definitely
Don't
not
try
Harrison
to be Han
Ford.
Solo.
That would be
I mean, if you're going to try to be someone, try to be, I don't know, who's an easy target?
a better version of you.
Oh,
No.
it's the nicest thing Spencer's ever said.
And this-